what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. In this video, I want to discuss the Arnold Classic 2022 scorecards for men's open bodybuilding. As you guys might know, there were some interesting and controversial decisions at that show, including the final decision for the winner, Brandon Curry versus William Bonac. Brandon Curry wound up taking the win, and I've seen a lot of comments in favor of William Bonac taking the win. So I wanted to address that and a few other things in these scorecards here. So looking at the scorecards, let's talk about the two biggest swings on these scorecards. And what I mean by that is the two biggest changes from prejudging to the night show. And we're also going to review some of the photos from the show. And let's go ahead and start with Justin Rodriguez. So Justin was a guy that looked fantastic at prejudging. Arguably the most conditioned guy in the show at prejudging. Now, between prejudging and the night show, what we saw was a significant difference in Justin's physique, a pretty big change. Prejudging, fantastic. Crazy conditioned, a whole lot of detail. Abs looked pretty good, vascular, definition everywhere. Just a great looking package overall. At the night show, Justin looked like he got significantly worse, a lot smoother. His midsection was a little bit washed out. You couldn't see his abs as well. The definition in his legs was a little bit smoother, a little bit more watery. And overall, the difference was so big. If you look at the scores, and again, to briefly explain how the scoring works in bodybuilding, the lowest score is the best score. So the lower, the better. So Justin had a pretty low score at prejudging. I think a lot of people had him in third or fourth at prejudging, the judges included. It looked like a third place placing to me at prejudging. Now, at the night show, he went all the way from 17 to 25, which was an 8-point swing between the two. That's a very, very big difference. Now, that swing would give him a total of 42 points, giving him a 5th place finish. Now, I really believe he would have been third had he looked exactly how he looked at prejudging at the night show. He was my pick for third at prejudging, but I think it was pretty clear at the night show that something had changed. And again, it's worth mentioning here, this is the first Arnold Classic ever that they've done a 2-day show. Historically, at the Arnold, it has been a 1-day show, meaning the prejudging is at like noon and the finals is like 6 or 7, depending on the year. So that could be a blessing or it could be a curse. That could give you, that extra day could give you a lot of time to improve, or it could give you a lot of time to mess things up. So depending on the bodybuilder, it could be a good or bad thing, and it looks like for Justin, having that extra day was a bad thing. Now, let's talk about another big swing at prejudging. So Samson Dauda, who to me looked like was going to be in about the 5th place spot at prejudging. He was being compared for sure for 5th or 6th against Brett Wilkin, and Samson at prejudging wound up with a score of 25, so that's what Justin got at the night show. And then at the finals, he scored lower than Justin had scored at prejudging with a score of 16. So he swung it from 25 to 16, a 9-point swing in his favor, which wound him up in a 4th place spot ahead of Justin, which I think was maybe moving him up 1 or 2 spots from where it looked like he was going to be placing at prejudging. Now, I think this was definitely deserved. Samson, I think, did look better at the night show. A lot of detail, very conditioned. One of the better packages that we had seen from Samson so far. And overall, you know, the physique that he brings in terms of structure kind of reminds me of a Sean Roden. Maybe you could say a little bit like Brandon Curry, really small waist. He's got some really round and full muscle bellies. But overall, brought the detail, brought the conditioning. Really, really solid showing from Samson. So that was probably the biggest swing. It was just a positive swing from prejudging to the night show. But let's look at the big controversy here. Brandon Curry versus William Bonac. I've seen the comments, and there's a lot of them. William Bonac was robbed, is what a lot of the comments say. William Bonac should have won, is what a lot of people are saying. Now, honestly, I do think that at prejudging, Bonac looked better than Brandon. And I said this in my wrap-up video of the finals, that going into the night show, I felt that Brandon needed to come in, I would say, significantly tighter at finals in order to beat Bonac. And I thought if he did that, he would deserve the victory and he would edge out Bonac. Now, to be honest, I didn't feel that Brandon had improved between prejudging and the night show, but according to his score, he had a score of 5 at the prejudging and a score of 7 at the final. So he had a higher score at the finals, meaning the judges did not feel he improved. But that being said, he was still pretty far ahead of Bonac, who Bonac had 10. He had a score of 10 at prejudging, which is basically straight scores for second, and a score of 8 at the final. So he was a little bit closer to winning at the finals. But the final scores was Bonac with a score of 18 and Curry with a score of 12. So that's interesting because that's a 6-point difference between Brandon and Bonac. And we've seen a lot of one-point decisions in the history of bodybuilding, and a lot of people, myself included, felt like this was a very, very tight and a very, very close 1 and 2 between Brandon and Bonac. But it was actually 6 points separating the two of them, which I thought was pretty surprising. I thought for sure it was going to be a 1-point toss-up. And the closer to first that the placings are, the more significant each point of difference is. So, for example, if you had like 60 points versus the guy in front of you that had like 59, that 1 point doesn't matter as much. Or 60 versus 54, that 6 points isn't as big of a deal. But when you get close to first and second place, 6 points is a pretty significant gap in favor of Brandon. So I wanted to point that out because I thought that was interesting, because a lot of the comments are saying Bonac got robbed. A lot of the comments were saying Brandon didn't deserve the win. And I thought it was interesting that not only was the scorecards reflecting not really that close of a battle, but the scorecards reflected a pretty solid victory for Brandon Curry in the eyes of the judges. And I'm pretty curious to get your guys' feedback on that, and I know that you guys will give me your feedback on that. But it's interesting seeing these scorecards and knowing that was the case. Now, another big one was Brett. I think a lot of people were surprised with Brett Wilkins' placing, but it looks like it was about the same, his score at prejudging, and well, exactly the same at prejudging in the finals, 30 and 30 at both, giving him a 6th place placing, which I think is nothing to be ashamed of. I think, honestly, Brett did really well here. I just think the expectations and the hype were a little bit higher than Brett was ready for at this point in his career. I think Brett's going to go on to have a great future in bodybuilding. I think he's a great bodybuilder, but like I've been saying this whole time, I think a lot of people have been hyping him up to a point where I just don't think he was at yet. So a lot of people are disappointed that he took 6, but in reality, the fact that this was his 2nd pro show ever as a Men's Open pro, it's actually really impressive that he took 6th at his first Arnold ever, his 2nd pro show ever as an Open pro. It's not a bad placing, but because he was hyped up so much to possibly win or to be top 2, a lot of people feel like he looked bad here. And honestly, I don't think he looked bad. He just looked not as good as people were predicting he was going to look. And I don't think we talked about the final 3 placings outside of the top 6. So Fabio Giga Resende was in the bottom of that pack with a 9th place placing. That's last place. Max Charles came in 8th place, and Regan Grimes came in 7th. So that's the scorecard analysis, guys, of the 2022 Arnold Classic. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about these placings. Was William Bonac robbed? Do you think Brandon Curry should have won? What happened with Justin Rodriguez? What happened with Samson Dauda? Did you agree with those big swings between the two shows? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.